me thank you and my team led by Easy, who's now rather more popular in Malaysia for taking up the cow national issue. So I joke with him and say that when they see him, they remember the cow. I was enjoying the meal yesterday night at the new palace, and they serve very sumptuous, delicious beef. Aziza then told me that you better finish it because it can be quite expensive, probably from the national food lot. So I tweeted about it. I said, delicious, sumptuous meal, and Aziza said that the beef may come from the national food law. There were hundreds of immediate responses to the tweet. So it's the lesson to be drawn is that at times you need to talk about something else. About beef, about music, about movies, and not economic transformation programs. Now let me come back to this issue of economic transformation program plan. Malaysia is of course much more fortunate. It's not true to say that it is almost a failed state. We do express lots of concern with the state of our economy. But for many of you, particularly from the embassies or high commissioners, you need to be reminded that we come from a different experience, different threshold. In 2007, when I presented the Malaysian economic agenda, my central thesis was that we had the capacity, we have lost most of it, because our threshold in the late 70s and early 80s was not Thailand or Indonesia or the Philippines, the respective ambassadors and commissioners present. Our threshold was Singapore, Taiwan, and South Korea. So if you do compare the rate of success in Malaysia now, even with the second tier economies of Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, good, just about that. We have lost the first tier competition or competitiveness. Now, of course, the government always takes pride in the fact that we are still much better than Myanmar. I will never dispute that. We are still much better than Burma, except in public assembly, because Burma is elected. So we lost on that count. So our concern to find out what went wrong. And one of the reasons for losing competitiveness is the issue of governance. The second is our pension and commitment, or obsession with what we consider as an archaic, obsolete economic policy, race-based new economic policy. I'm a Malay, or Bumi Putra, I'm a Muslim. I don't mean to just attempt to appease some of my Chinese friends or foreign friends to say that I'm not concerned with the welfare of the Malays. I accept the fact that they're doing relatively well. No. The most marginalized and the poor remain the Malays and the Bumi. But the prescription based on race and the fact that there's been massive abuse, billions disbursed in terms of contracts, etc., benefiting the small number, and the vast majority continue to be ignored or marginalized. And to my mind, therefore, we need to rethink and relook. Program, the policy introduced in the 1970s will not be deemed to be relevant today. Now in 1997, I was still finance minister, and we faced the Asian economic or financial crisis. economic crisis, financial convulsions, engulfing the region. And I used that opportunity, slight departure from my then Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, who was not yet forgotten me. He just called me a US agent 2 days back. And I kept on reminding when the Deputy Secretary William Byrne gave me a call this afternoon. I said, I am Anwar, leader of the opposition. I am not a US agent. Just to remind me, in case Dr. Mahathir knows the fact that if you are not a US agent, how is it that the Deputy Secretary of State choose to call you? It's a very pertinent question that in the media here, we take it very seriously, such words. During that crisis, I addressed the Council of Foreign Relations in New York, and I said, look, we have to acknowledge some fundamental flaws in our system. We should use this opportunity, quoting Joseph Schumpeter, game of creative destruction. Let us identify the flaws. We need to dismantle the obsolete ways, do so now, and build. One of the issues, of course, the issue of transparency, the issue of endemic corruption, the issue of cronyism, the issue of disbursing major contracts without tender to friends and family members and cronies. This has to stop because it's a major drain in the national economic resources. So Malaysia therefore cannot realize its economic potential if this system remains in place. And this is not just our view in the opposition, but you can refer to the latest Auditor General's report relative to the other states, the states under Pakatan Maya, Selangor, and thank you again, Ali and the Selangor team for the support tonight. Penang, we can at least show our ability to depart from the usual of business as usual, like in terms of awarding major contracts without tender, in terms of disbursing contracts and privatization to select cronies of few. I therefore recommend a bolder and more radical remedy, because contrary to general assumption, we are relatively doing well, a richer nation, blessed with natural resources. And example is of course our reliance on Petronas to finance our operations, but it can be a double-edged sword. Our gas production is forecasted to decline at an alarming rate, a compounded rate of 5% each year. By 2025, it is only a paltry 25% of 2010's production. Now, with only 5.8 billion of oil equivalent reserves as of 2010, our crude oil and condensate reserves will be completely exhausted in less than 25 years. So, the assumption that Petronas can continue to bankroll our economy and country are long gone. The government should never have acquired the habit of spending our petrol money lavishly, because the addiction is hard to break. Yet, between 2006 to 2009, the government has spent 236 billion ringgit of our petrol money, 55% of cumulative payments paid by Petronas to the federal government without any real impact on the economy. We call it imprudence, because it also extends to other government-linked companies, the GLCs. And you have, you look at it closely, the entry point projects, EPPs, under the much publicized ETP. You know, when we sit in Parliament and we have the Minister explaining ETP, NTRA, EPP, half the members of Parliament are not aware of these new acronyms. So I think it is. It sounds impressive, but it's wanting in terms of real, tangible results. So now, ETP reveals that 77% of the supposedly private investments amounting to 173 billion announced as of August 2011 will be funded by GLCs or firms with large GLIC, government-linked investment companies shareholding. Now this is worrying. With the trend always has to be to generate private sector interest in investments. The obsolete economic approach of quasi-capitalism, spiked with a high dose of corruption, must be dismantled. Now, I made an earlier reference to the misguided notion of equity by projecting the whole concept of new economic policy as something sacrosanct. Many Malays in the rural sector are now convinced that without the NEP, there is no future for the Malays. Because for the last over 40 years, they have been given this sort of incessant propaganda that their survival rests on this dole through the new economic policy. Our concern, I come from that generation that saw the introduction and development of the new economic policy. Let me be frank, some of my normally friends are quite surprised when I say this, that I acknowledge the initial success of the NEP in terms of social mobility, opportunities to education, and even the initial opportunities given to Malays and Bumiputras, training, loans to start their business projects and programs.